You know that feeling you get after you finish a race, after you finish a marathon, and you're just kind of stoked on life and you want to go out and do that again, but you're maybe asking yourself, can I run multiple marathons a year? Is it safe? And if so, how do I do it? Well, I'm Coach Morgan from the Run Experience, and today that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. I personally have done it myself this year, and I did it, so I'm going to show you how to do it and do it safely so that you can get out there and explore all those fun different marathons with your friends. Let's go. First, let's talk about some risks that can occur when trying to train for multiple marathons in a year. The first one being overtraining syndrome. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that. The first thing is you're gonna end up struggling from a lack of physical and mental energy. Those quick and easy 5-mile little shakeout runs that you're gonna doing are gonna start to feel so hard because you're overtrained. Your body has not rested enough from those hard activities to give you enough energy to jump into the next one. So after marathon number 1, you've just jumped right back into marathon training for number 2, and it's gonna suddenly feel so much harder than that first one did. You're gonna feel tired all of the time, your body's gonna be achy, and it just doesn't recover like it should and like it normally does. So what can we do about this? What are some of the things that we can help add into our training to make sure that we are not overtraining and staying away from all those risks that overtraining brings? So let's first talk about nutrition. Everyone's bodies reacts differently to stress. Sometimes you may be feeling right after a race, you're super hungry and you want to eat. For me personally, I don't like to eat until a few hours after because my stomach's not super settled yet. But you need to make sure, even if you are just like me, you are getting that food in and feeding your body. When we're not eating enough, that's going to turn back to that overtraining. You're gonna have that lack of energy because your body's not getting the fuel that it needs to recover from high stress situations like that marathon. Now, some of my favorite foods to add in when I'm trying to recover for that anti-inflammatory, and I know that our Coach Elizabeth approved, are gonna be things like fatty fishes, bright leafy greens, and turmeric. And I know turmeric may not seem as normal to you as in San Francisco where you can find it in lattes and smoothies, but I'll take some home. I put it in some chicken or, in smoothies. Now, another thing you want to consider is making sure that you're adding in more sleep to your schedule. Especially as you're recovering from that race, you're gonna have that extra time on your hands, so why not take a couple extra naps? Help yourself out. Sleep is the only time that your body gets to fully recover. It can actually settle down. You can take a couple breaths. I like to add in a couple 20-minute naps here and there during my day just to get in that extra sleep. Adding in strength training to my season this year was one of the biggest things that helped me feel strong and feel powerful through each and every race that I did. While doing this, I was able to increase my range of motion. I was able to help engage all those little muscles that you don't get to strengthen while running. So a great example of this strength training, and one of my personal favorite movements that I tend to do every single week, is the thruster. Now, this is typically done with weight, but if you don't want to do it with weight, it's just going to turn into a little overhead press at the top here. So we're going to sit back, and I'm just going to go through this really quickly. If you're looking for a bigger, deeper dive, we have tons of videos on our channel, but let's get back to this. We're gonna stand with our feet about hip width apart, and we're gonna keep that core on nice and tight. We're gonna sit back into our squat. I'm gonna have my weight here or just my arms. I'm gonna sit down as far as I can, and I'm gonna explosively come up, pushing those arms up to the sky, squeezing the glutes here, and really thrusting those hips forward, getting a full body range of motion. Now, that's just one movement. You can do it with or without weight. You can do lunges, you can do push-ups, all simple movements that are gonna engage all those muscles in the body, and they're gonna be totally easy to do because you don't even need a gym membership to do them. You can do them right here, so no excuses. You should be adding in strength training if you are trying to do multiple marathons a year. Now, just because you ran a marathon 3 weeks ago doesn't necessarily mean that your body's gonna be ready to jump right back into that 20-mile run. The only exception to this is, well, if you have a race in 3 weeks after that first one. That's a different situation, and we'll jump into that next. But if you have a lot of time to recover, let your body recover. Test out those post-race legs, see how they feel. Really go off of feel here, especially if maybe you're dealing with a little post-race injury. You want to take that into consideration as well. Really up that strength training a little bit more so you're still getting those physical adaptations. Add in some mobility to really help yourself recover, but then also keep prepping that body so that you're ready for the next race coming up. So you want to do these multiple races a year. Let me give you some advice on essentially, I think, my 2 best ways that you can go about planning your marathons. The first one is that they're close enough together that you can just carry that fitness over. That turns into about a month. You have a little bit of recovery time, but then you can ramp back up pretty quickly. I would only suggest doing 2 of those. So one and then the other, and then you have a nice long period of rest before if you want to go into a 3rd marathon of the year. I wouldn't go 3 in a row. That's putting a lot of stress on the body, and that's going to go over the course of 4 or 5 months. That's a lot of marathon training. My other suggestion when choosing your marathons is to have one and then have a full length of recovery in between the other one, and so that you can fully ramp back up. So say you do 3 months of marathon training, do 3 months of marathon training, have a race, give yourself about a month of recovery, and then have another 3 months to ramp back up so you're almost starting, not from zero, but you're starting back to the beginning of that training plan. Those, in my opinion, are the best 2 ways to keep you safe and keep you healthy while doing these multiple races. So look, I don't want you to think that all of this information is just coming out of thin air. I personally use this in my 2019 racing schedule. I did Boston in April, and a month later, I ran Mountains to Beach. Then I took a little bit of time off, and in July was my next marathon. It was San Francisco Marathon. So that's all roads that I've done in a span of 5 months. And then I transitioned to the trails where I ran a 60K back in September, and now I'm getting ready to run North Face in about a month from now in November. So it can be done because look at me. Healthy. I, knock on wood, have not had any injuries. I felt pretty good throughout my whole training cycle. The one little tip that I could give you guys though is not all of those were A races for me. They were not all going to be the best race I've ever had because I knew that that's just not possible, and I know that I cannot handle training hard for a full year. So I chose 2 races that I was going to do that were going to be good A races for me, and I stuck to those, and I made sure that my training for those leading up were the best that I was going to have, and I worked a little extra hard, and I took a little extra recovery on some of those other races. So if you guys are implementing all the things that I told you today into your training, you can also have a successful multiple marathon year, maybe double, triple, anything's possible. And if you guys are looking for more information on how to actually train for marathons, you can check out the video right over here that Nate and I did together, because all this information on being able to do multiple marathons a year doesn't really mean that much if you don't know how to train for them. So go ahead and check that out, and I'll catch you in there. No. What does that even mean?
No?